So, hey guys, every film director on the planet has their film that they're guilty of, that they don't feel proud of. And for today's movie review, I'm going to be talking about an older film, a film that the director himself probably doesn't want you to know about. You all know his name. His name's James Cameron. He's done, Avatar, Terminator, Terminator 2, Titanic, tons of great films. But this film, I'm sure he is hoping you forgot about because he doesn't even count it as his first film, and it was. Today's review is going to be about Piranha 2, The Spawning. This is the very first film by James Cameron, and he is not proud of this movie, and I can see why. So to go over the quick plot of this movie, because there really isn't much to talk about in this plot, this film is about a tropical resort that gets attacked by a colony of flying piranha fish, and they're man-eating. They have no mercy. They'll eat anybody that gets in their way. And as the employees of the resort look into this more, they find out that these piranha fish are connected to a laboratory experiment of people trying to figure out how to make animals better than their environments, how they can live outside of the water or live in water and things like that. So these piranha fish were an experiment of what can we do to make a sea creature have wings or be able to live out in the open air and not have to live in the water all the time. And so when that connection is made, the employees of the resort do everything that they can to not only kill off the fish, but to track down the laboratory where this might have happened to see if there's some type of antidote or some type of resource that can not only prevent, these fish from killing anybody else again, but anything that might have also come out of that laboratory that doesn't get out into the public either. So overall, Piranha 2: The Spawning is a bad film. That's no surprise. James Cameron himself doesn't even count it as his first film. He's completely guilty that he had to make this just to make the first Terminator. I guess he had food poisoning on the set of this movie, so he even had his assistant direct some scenes in the movie. But if it weren't for this movie, he wouldn't have inspiration for Terminator because he had bad dreams about a robot assassin trying to kill him in his dreams, giving him the idea for the first Terminator films. So if it weren't for Piranha 2, he wouldn't have had inspiration for the first Terminator film. So let's go over the positives and negatives of this film. And believe me, there's not a lot of positives in this movie. For my positives of Piranha 2: The Spawning that actually exist, it is interesting to see kind of early inspiration for James Cameron's other films. There are scenes that definitely look like shots you would see in like Terminator, or scenes that play out like a really bad version of like Titanic or anything like that. So it's interesting to see how some of these shots and some of these story elements of certain scenes might have worked their way into other James Cameron films. Obviously, way better quality too. But interesting to see kind of the early inspiration of James Cameron and what he made later on in his life. The sim also has a ton of so bad it's good qualities. There's wirings on the fish. The special effects are awful. The acting is bad. Very little redeeming qualities, but it's just so funny to see just how awful this film is. It really has a so bad it's good kind of quality, like a B-list kind of film. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you think that stuff is hilarious, Piranha 2: The Spawning has a ton of really hilariously bad special effects and just horribly executed scenes. For my negatives of this film, and pretty much the whole thing of this film was negatives. The story is very boring. It's very hard to sit through at times. I was watching this film with a group of friends, and we just wanted to see how awful this film was. And believe me, it was awful. I think the fact that we were laughing and having a good time and really just laughing at just how horrible the film was made the film better already. The storyline of this film is truly boring and awful, just not a good story. The script is also awful, just a bad script, horribly written, not a good script. There's also no tension at all in this film. You'd think a film about flying piranha fish that, they're going to attack somebody and eat them alive would have a lot of tension. This film has no tension. The tension is so badly built up, and it's such a slow build up and such a horrible way to build up a action scene, if we want to call it that. It's just there's just no tension to this movie, and that really hurts this movie really badly. There's also some scenes in this film that have very misleading X-rated moments. There's a lot of scenes here that really feel like they're setting up for something that would be X-rated. Very misleading and very much, I'm sure, not what James Cameron would have wanted for this movie. Very misleading. There's also, I've talked about this earlier, but the acting in this film is terrible. You can tell a lot of people in this film didn't act in anything else after this movie. Not a good film for if you want to look for good acting. just bad wired special effects. You can see the wirings on the fish. You could see where there was puppeteers like shoving the fishes up in the people's faces just for the camera shot. Bad special effects. There's also little logic in this film. It's just like, you think two people, even if they were attracted to each other, it's like you go from thinking about what could potentially be all these murders on this beach to looking like pictures of corpses, and then it leads to a sex scene. It's just like, how does that work? Really, how does that work? It's just like, what's the logic behind all that? Another thing too about this film that was also really annoying is you get beautiful tropic environments, beautiful beach shots to work with. Why do you choose to film them on like a really ugly, cloudy day that looks like it's about to rain? It's just like, who does that? I mean, really? You choose like you're in the most beautiful place you could film for this movie, and you choose like really horrible, cloudy, rainy days to film it. It's like, how does that work? And then there's also some very bad voice dubbing in this film. There's a lot of scenes where you can tell that that's not that real person's voice. There's a scene where like a Mexican lady sounds like a white person and all that kind of stuff. Just really bad voice dubbing. You could tell that someone in post production filled in the voice for them. Either they messed up on the line or something. Something happened in post production where they had to absolutely get rid of the audio for whatever reason. So Piranha 2, The Spawning. If you really like So Bad It's Good films, it's obviously worth a view that way. If you just want to see why James Cameron doesn't even view it as his first film, I guess it's an okay view. But really not a good film. 2 out of 10. So Piranha 2 gets the 2. If you're looking for a So Bad It's Good film, it'll do the trick. But man, it's just not a like if you're looking for just a good film, it's definitely not it. So Piranha 2, The Spawning gets a 2 out of 10. But for good reason, and it's definitely a so bad it's good kind of film too.